It is now small SUVs that are the most climate efficient. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman has that.
It's no longer sedans, regular 2- and 4-door cars that get the best gas mileage and release the least CO2, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Small SUVs, sometimes called crossovers or car SUVs, now contribute the least as a vehicle category to greenhouse gas emissions. We're talking about vehicles like the Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, and Tesla Model Y. Carl Brower is an analyst at IC Cars.
SUVs originally were truck-based and big, and now are essentially cars with taller bodies on them.
These smaller car SUVs now average 41 miles per gallon versus 34 for sedans. Their aggregate CO2 emissions are about 25% lower.
SUVs have been growing in popularity. They've been eating up all the market share. Cars are now a niche part of the market.
There are fewer sedans on the road, most of them older, running on gasoline. Newer SUVs are getting more and more fuel efficient, says Gil Tal, director of UC Davis's Electric Vehicle Research Center.
People care about the efficiency of these vehicles. They're willing to pay a little bit higher than for small cars. And the car companies are investing in electrifying this segment faster than any other segment.
1 in 3 new car SUVs sold last year in the U.S. was all electric or gas-electric hybrid. And the push to make ever more hybrids is likely to continue, says Carl Brower.
We're going to soon be at a point where you wouldn't build a car and let all the braking energy just turn into heat and vanish versus recapturing it somehow. It's going to be too inexpensive to add the hybrid components and to meet the fuel efficiency requirements.
The top-selling vehicles in America are still big gas-guzzling pickups and truck-sized SUVs. Some of them have all-electric and hybrid versions. But Gil Tal at UC Davis doesn't think much of them.
Large electric vehicles, Tesla Cybertruck, the Hummer, are not very efficient. We think about producing the batteries, wear and tear, the energy consumption.
It might be time to rethink the place of some SUVs in American car culture, he says.
Maybe we are overreacting to the name. Car SUVs are not the enemy. These crossovers can be the sweet spot
for getting ever closer to an all-electric, carbon-zero transportation future. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
ExxonMobil has traditionally been in the oil and gas extraction and chemicals business, right? Now it's making a new move into the burning natural gas to generate electricity business. It's what's being described as a massive gas-fueled plant to generate power for electricity-hungry cloud computing data centers. Exxon is promising it has tech that will capture 90% of the new plant's carbon dioxide emissions. The location for this Exxon power plant has not been revealed. It's a bet that tech companies would pay a lot extra for electricity generated with this expensive carbon capture system. I'm David Brancaccio. You're listening to the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Good morning. This is meteorologist Russ Murley with your WTJX local forecast for Thursday, the 12th of December. Partly sunny with a slight chance of showers, 85 to 89 this afternoon. North and northeast winds at 10 to 20. It'll be partly cloudy with a risk of showers, middle to upper 70s tonight. Partly sunny with spotty showers, 84 to 88 tomorrow. Showers, middle to upper 70s tomorrow night. And partly sunny with a chance of showers Saturday, 85 to 89 degrees. Rip current risk will be moderate today at most area beaches, especially on north-facing beaches, and particularly on St. Croix. Learn new grilling techniques on Project Fire, Thursdays at 4 p.m. on WTJX-TV, Channel 12.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And good Thursday morning, and welcome to another edition of Analyze This here on your NPR station in the U.S. Virgin Islands, WTJX FM 93.1 with yours truly, Neville James. It's another gorgeous day in paradise, and we got a great show lined up this morning. Hour number 2, we got Virgin Islands Olympian Peter Holmberg joining us to talk about his experiences as a professional sailor from the Virgin Islands and him being a silver medalist, I believe, in the 88 games. We'll get into detail with that. And hour number 1, we've got some big shots here in the studio from Spelman College, associated with the incomparable Dr. Gloria Joseph, not Dr. Gloria Joseph, the master chef, the master cook here on St. Croix, known for pea soup and all that good stuff, kalaloo and what have you. The poet, the scribe, the radical, Dr. Gloria Joseph, who has published a number of different books. I see she wrote one in conjunction with Hortense Rowe, Out of the West. That's Hell Under God's Orders. The Wind is Spirit. A bio anthology. And I think Cassandra Dunn had something to do with this one. And then also Cool, which is poetry by Audre Lorde. So we're going to enjoy this Arch Thursday discussion in the studio here. We got Spelman College Archivist, Miss Holly Smith here. Good morning, Miss Smith. Welcome to Analyze This.
Good morning, Mr. James. It's
Pull
a
the,
delight to be here.
pull the microphone a little closer so the audience can hear you. You good?
Is that good?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, good. And also we got former NFL player, and you host a show?
Correct.
Jamal Bottom Line Burke.
That's right.
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy to be here.
Okay,
Looking
glad-
at the blue waters outside. So
Yes,
it's always a beautiful thing.
Yes, it's easy to come to work in the morning time with that vista. Also, a relative, Cheryl Joseph.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Analyze This. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Now, Cassandra Dunn, you could slide that mic over so we could get Cassandra, whose voice is known throughout the Virgin Islands. Cassandra, good morning. Thank you for hooking me up with these fine people so we could have a good discussion.
Well, good morning, Senator. You know, I listen to you every day.
Thank you.
So I knew this would just be the right place for the right people. So thank you so much for hosting us today to talk about, you know, these very, very important people of our community. They left a big legacy for us to talk about.
Well, go ahead and lay the foundation for the conversation that we're about to have, so you can make my job easier this morning talking with Ms. Smith, Ms. Joseph, and Mr. Burke.
As you know, Gloria Joseph and Audre Lorde, for some of their later years, lived in the U.S. Virgin Islands, specifically St. Croix. And while they were here, they did a lot as far as community activism, and also they brought with them their, you know, all their works, their talents, their writings, their people that they knew from all over the world. And for those who know certainly about Gloria, Virgin Islander, perhaps not by birth, but certainly by choice, and a lot of family from here was deeply implanted in the community. Actually, her and Audre were part of the founders of the Women's Coalition of St. Croix. And so through many of the projects that we did together, we had some experiences that are unmatched. I met Gloria, it was the late 70s, early 80s, and we came together and formed a group with some other women called the Sojourner Sisters. and we brought the first women writers symposium to the Virgin Islands with all of the writers that you know, Sonia Sanchez, Adrienne Rich, you name it, they were here. And so working with Gloria through the years, she became a very dear friend. And when she decided to write the book about Audre Lorde, who was her partner for many years, I helped her through that process. And also, she gave me the privilege of writing one of the essays in the book. And with Audre, what can we say about Audre other than, you know, she was phenomenal, always insightful, many books of poetry she wrote, studied wide in colleges across globally, really, and a lot of people know her poetry and appreciate all that she put into making, you know, a good life for the people around her, and leaving good works behind for us to ponder for a very long time. And so to have one of Gloria's directives to me in writing was to make sure that Spelman College got a lot of her work and also the work of Audre Lorde that she had in her archive. So really, this has been phenomenal having them here. Yesterday, we must have went through, about 30 boxes and had everything laid out. Thank you to UVI and the RT Park because they let us use their facilities to really work all day yesterday into the evening, just sorting through papers and photographs and all. And so it's really been a great experience. So that is basically where we are right now.
Now, before I bring in Holly, you mentioned maybe not by birth, but she is documented as being born on St. Croix. Is that something that could be questioned because her parents did move to New York City?
Yes, she was definitely born outside of St. Croix. She was born in New York.
She was born in New York. Okay.
Yes, she was born in New York, but you know, came here often as a child, and certainly chose this to be her home as an adult. And you know, she lived in many places and worked at many universities, but always wanted to come to what she considered home, St. Croix. And so, yeah.
When was her birthday?
When was her birthday?
Yeah.
March 8th.
Because I see March 10th here.
Okay. I'm going to go with that. Okay. It's so funny. Gloria had 2 birth certificates, so we were always trying to figure that out. Anyway, so yes.
No, I would hope that it's March 10th because that's my birthday.
So, okay, we're going to make it March 10th. We're going with that birth certificate. Okay.
So we're good with that. No. Great. Thank you very much, Cassandra, for setting this up. And we do an Arts Thursday here. So we're going to focus on the literary arts today. Ms. Smith, welcome again.
Thank you.
Tell us about Spelman College right now. Spelman College has a rich history as it relates to Virgin Islanders who attended college after high school in the Atlanta area. Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
So thank you again, Mr. James, for the opportunity to be here. So Spelman College was founded in 1881 and one of 2 remaining historically black colleges and universities founded with the specific intent to educate women of the African diaspora, and has been in continuous operation ever since then. And I'm really proud to be at an institution that has educated black women across the diaspora, including different West African countries, the Caribbean, and the U.S. in a number of variety of different areas. They had one of the early teacher training programs. They actually had a nurses training program in the late 19th century. And really the foundation was to provide educational opportunities just a few years removed from enslavement, and it to still be able to have that mission and to expand and broaden into the field of STEM, into the arts, is a really rich history.
No. Cosby's?
Yes.
They got a relationship with Spelman College?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. That was I think. I'm trying to remember which daughter it was went to Spelman College.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm blanking as well. But yes.
It's been a while. 40 years. 40 years ago, this fall was actually when the Cosbys, that family show that took over America.
Denise.
Every Thursday night. Matter of fact, it's a Thursday today. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yes, and I'm sorry, I was thinking of their real daughter. Who?
Yeah. No. I'm talking about the actual show.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And a part of the show was one of his daughters actually attending Spelman College.
To Spelman, and they also shot a number of episodes of A Different World. And actually, this past year, when the cast of A Different World was doing their reunion show and tour, they came back to Sisters Chapel, and I think what was really remarkable, I'm 44, so I remember when the show came on new. But what was really remarkable was to see the current students really elated and go in, and they knew the songs and they were just as excited, and they were telling the cast members, I watched this, I streamed this on Hulu with my parents, so it was really amazing to see the excitement and the importance of that show, still to think about A Different World particularly, and what that did to amplify HBCUs and to increase awareness, especially I think in this day and age when we see the attacks on education and DEI initiatives, that students, black students particularly, can come places where they feel comfortable. So yeah, that was pretty remarkable.
It is. Jamal Burke, what's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm happy to be here.
Tell us about yourself, if you will.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Roxbury, Massachusetts. I was fortunate to go to Boston College, where
BC.
Boston College, BC.
Yeah.
Ran track there. In addition, was a football player as well. So I had a chance to live out my dream, and then after that, I was fortunate to play for the Atlanta Falcons, the Miami Dolphins, the Dallas Cowboys.
You got drafted out of BC?
No, I signed a free agency with the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you played with the Falcons for how long?
I was there with the Falcons for a year back when Michael Vick was there.
Oh yeah.
Payless Price, T.J. Duckett.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
It was a great time. Michael Vick, just for the record, is the greatest athlete that I ever personally seen in my time.
Well, you're not the only one who feels that way. Some of us believe it's Bo Jackson.
Eternally, I would agree. Yeah, Bo Jackson, he's the number one spot.
But Michael threw the ball though.
Right.
Michael threw it. Bo was just powerful and ran over people. So we're good.
Absolutely.
Roxbury. That's a black neighborhood, or a lot of black people in Boston suburb, or
no, you was right. Originally, heavily popular with black people, and additionally as well, similarly to what Holly was mentioning about Spelman, Roxbury also does have a rich history as well. You might have heard of a brother named Malcolm X. That was basically the neighborhood he was roaming during this time when he was trying to find himself in his journey of this thing we call life. And that's what really shaped me. A lot of life lessons that I learned in my childhood that still rings true today. You got to have integrity. You got to be a man of your word and treat people how you want to be treated, and mind your business, and handle your business. So, I'm really proud to be from that particular sector of America. And there's a lot of people who done a lot of great things who were born also in Roxbury, Mass.
Well, there was one Roxbury native who was on my show a couple of years ago. Her name was Ambassador Harriet Elam Thomas. She was a junior diplomat, and she worked with a diplomat from the Virgin Islands, Terrence Todman.
Okay.
And so we had a good conversation. What was interesting was when she said her name was Elam. We were doing a pre-production interview, me and my boss, Tanya Singh, and I said, Miss Elam, I'm a young man by the name of Keith Elam. We know him in the rap game as the Guru.
Oh, Guru, yeah,
And
absolutely.
he is from Roxbury.
Yeah, Gangstar.
Yeah, Gangstar, right? Him and the great DJ Premier, right? And so that's why when you said Roxbury, I was going to bring that up. And Ed and the Bulldogs, they come from Roxbury as well, you know what I'm saying? So it's a small world. You know what I'm saying?
Kings, it seems like, was birthed in that location as well.
That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So we're good. So bottom line,
yes.
What's that about?
Bottom line, came to me. I wanted to create a platform because privately my friends just so happen to be former NBA players, NHL players.
Oh yeah.
And NFL players.
Tell me some of your friends, man. If I know these big shots.
Troy Bell.
Troy Bell.
He's originally from Minnesota. He was the leading scorer in Boston College history.
Yeah. I know Troy Bell.
Was drafted at Memphis Grizzlies.
Grizzlies, yeah.
You know Will Green. Will Green, number 1 running back, taken in 2002
yes,
draft.
Yes.
So it's on and on. In the second time.
Yeah, right.
We just gotta trust, right?
So you got into to this particular genre.
Yes. When
and what prompted that?
Yeah, so what prompted it was these private conversations, right? So when you're in the moment, in the eye under the lights, you know, a lot of times you don't feel comfortable discussing maybe vulnerable feelings that in situations you go to, because along that journey to the NFL, NBA, there's always a price to pay.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so what I noticed during these conversations that we was having, these beautiful gems we was all sharing, and it seems like enough time and space has elapsed where people are no longer attached to these emotional scars, if you would, you know, because there's a lot of trauma that's attached with that journey as well that a lot of people don't discuss. But while people was opening up, I felt like there was a lot of benefits. We all had troubled homes. There was a lot of commonalities along the journey, and I was like, wow, if only somebody knows the struggles that maybe and the pain privately that you're going through, that they can be more vocal about that and share it as well. One person in particular, this guy Peter Harris, he was the number 1 running back in the country, and he was a known gangster in the streets during our era. Mm-hmm. And he was on my podcast. He started crying one time because I asked him during a moment in the fair. He was in his junior year, and he was about to get in a fight. And I said, "Did you know in that moment how much you had to lose?" And basically, he confessed that he was getting beat up at home by his stepfather, and that's what led him to a life in the street. So, I just, in short, wanted to provide a positive platform where people could come on there and share their stories unapologetically. That's why it's called The Expensive Truth. We got
it. That's Jamal Bottom Line Burke. Also, we got Ms. Holly Smith here. When we come back, we'll take a break. We got family member Cheryl Joseph. We're going to introduce you into the conversation, then we'll look at the works of the great Dr. Gloria Joseph. We'll be back right after this. And we're back here, Analyze This. We're actually live streaming this morning, so if you want to check us out via video, you can do so as well. So we got Mr. Jamal Burke, Miss Holly Smith, Cassandra Dunn, who set up this awesome conversation, and Miss Cheryl Joseph. Good morning, Miss Joseph. Glad to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
You related to Dr. Joseph?
Yes, I am a niece by marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your recollections of her influence on you and how she, was very outspoken, and let it be known that you're gonna know how she feel.
Yes.
And not have to speculate.
Absolutely. Well, certainly, Aunt Gloria was one of the family matriarchs, and one of the things that comes back to memory is always entering into our family home, and there was always a circle of women, and they were always in deep conversations about something. And as it relates to the family, Gloria would give her opinion unasked, but she would but she was always a guiding force. And one of the things in going through this process after her passing is, in the family, she was Aunt Gloria, but the breadth and the depth of her, of who she was, has become more recognizable to the family because, yes, we knew she was a professor. Yes, we knew she was an author. Yes, we knew she was a leading feminist, but we had her as our Aunt Gloria, and now the family is like, wow, Aunt Gloria did this, Aunt Gloria was involved in this, she was the founder of that. And so, yes, sometimes, you recognize people in their fullness after their passing.
Mm-hmm. And she passed away 5 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. Here on St. Croix?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. We're going to give a shout out to her and her contribution. So, Ms. Smith, as an archivist, what jumps out at you looking at her works, Gloria Joseph?
I think the thing that jumps out particularly, I had the pleasure actually of meeting Dr. Gloria twice. Once in 2016 when she came to Spelman for a conversation, and myself and my supervisor, Dr. Beverly Guy-Sheftal, founding director of Spelman's Women's Center, which Archives is attached to, came to visit her in 2018. And I think what really struck me about Dr. Gloria's work is, like you said, Miss Cheryl was saying, the breadth.
Yeah, get closer to the microphone a second.
The depth. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The breadth, the depth, the intellectual richness, the radicalness, and the willingness to call out sexism, racism, misogyny, homophobia, just the brave and brilliance, and getting to witness that up close was a really powerful experience. So when Dr. Joseph came in 2017, to Spelman in 2016 and held a conversation, she was talking with students and talking with faculty and staff, and Dr. Guy-Sheftal said, well, and Dr. Gloria, she jokingly said, are we going to get that commitment to you for you to donate your papers to Spelman? And everybody laughed, but Dr. Gloria said, yes, I'm going to donate my papers to Spelman.
Wow. And
that means a lot because, again, thinking about the Women's Center founded, to my knowledge, it's one of the earliest or first comparative women's studies program founded at a HBCU, still in operation by iconic black feminist Dr. Beverly Guy-Sheftal. And to have the archives attached to an active women's center just means we get to activate archives in a different way.
But you see, if you're talking 2016, she was nearly 90 years old at that particular point, right?
Sharper than I'll ever be in my life. Hilarious, funny, witty. But I appreciate that Dr. Joseph really saw the value, because she could have donated her papers anywhere. Because of her career, she could have donated them to the Schomburg, to Harvard/Schlesinger Library. But it meant a lot that she wanted to donate them to Spelman. And I think one of those main reasons is because Spelman, we are the repository for Audre Lorde's papers.
Okay.
So we have Sister Audrey's papers. And we get an inquiry about using Audre Lorde's papers daily. We have researchers coming from around the world to research her work. And it means everything that Dr. Gloria and Sister Audrey will be reunited again. And they're reunited in the ancestral realm, and to be reunited to have their works complement each other and to be in conversation with each other. There's actually a course that was taught centering the works of Audre Lorde that is going to also be reoffered by our colleague Dr. Brianna Simone Jones. And I see Dr. Gloria's work being a part of that, because in addition to being companions, partners, friends, they were also intellectual compatriots. And so this is just a really exciting opportunity, exactly like Ms. Cheryl was saying, to further amplify Dr. Gloria's work, keep her in conversation with Audre Lorde, and most importantly, make sure we don't relegate her personal professional legacy to the past.
Now, Spelman is part of a group of colleges or universities in Atlanta.
Yes.
Speak a little bit about that, if you will.
Absolutely. So Spelman is part of what's called the Atlanta University Center,
Mhm.
and it's the largest consortium of historically black colleges and universities, which
Morehouse?
includes Morehouse,
Mhm.
where Guru went, as he's a Morehouse
Oh, yeah?
alum. Yes.
Yeah, man.
I'm a big Gangstar fan. Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
me too. When I first heard them in 1989.
Yes. Iconic, and I was like, of
Take
course you went
heed to the
Morehouse.
words that I manifest. Yeah.
Lemonade was a popular drink, and it still is.
Yeah. I got more props and stunts than Bruce
Bruce
Willis.
Willis.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a junkie. So don't hold it against
I
you.
knew we were in the right place when you said that. I knew we were in the
Yeah.
right place. It was like, my man.
But he was a genius.
And
You know what I'm saying?
I think, and I was so glad you mentioned that. And when I found out he went to Morehouse, because I think again of the, intellectual tradition of a lot of artists, MCs, and like you said, that HBCUs produce a lot of just really brilliant minds. And so Morehouse is part, Clark Atlanta University is part of the AUC.
Yeah, man,
Is the Morehouse School of Medicine, historically Morris Brown, the Interdenominational Theological Center. And to my ignorance, before I went to Spelman, I didn't realize how close the campuses were. It's just a really amazing opportunity, again, to see all this black brilliance and intellectual tradition. I mean, since the late 19th century, to thrive and to get to be there. And I say one of the things I really enjoy, I mean, every place can have its challenges, but it's just really refreshing to be at Spelman and part of the Atlanta University Center. And I should mention there's one library that serves all the schools in the AUC, excellent library, and they also have archives, so we work closely with our colleagues there. And it's just really refreshing that we don't have to justify why documenting black people are important. And that's a really refreshing thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I could stay here all day just tapping into Guru.
Oh,
Guru
listen.
rhymes, you know what I'm saying?
That's the
because,
next show.
Because he wasn't really about just rapping to make money and all that stuff. He was really a poet. And the poetry aspect of it tends to be ignored because you just want to make those nice rhymes that could sound good and make that money. But he was about education as well, you know what I'm saying? So we're good with that.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Burke, why is BC? Normally when you hear university, you think a university is more prominent and bigger than a college. However, in Boston, BC is more popular than BU. Why is that?
There's a variety of reasons, but I think for us it's just the dominance in sports. Most notably, we were national champions in 12 different sports. So I think that type of notoriety and attention elevated us from our counterpart of, Boston University. We also have like Northeastern in that proximity. But yeah, and it's just the exclusivity, Chestnut Hill, very private school. But again,
Harvard.
That's right.
Well, one of the beauties about the big cities is that there's so many educational opportunities. Right? You mentioned Atlanta, right? And sometimes Georgia Tech, right? In Atlanta, and of course, a lot of big schools in Boston. These big cities are like educational meccas from that perspective. And let's face it, the inner cities are where people of color predominantly live. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So these thriving together. You went to William & Mary?
I did.
That's that. William and Mary is where in Virginia?
Williamsburg, Virginia.
That's a historic part of the state, isn't it? Don't they have? They got some colonialism locations and all that stuff.
Yes, Colonial Williamsburg, and I actually used to work there in their African American programs department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you did a stint at Yale,
I did.
New Haven.
Yes, that was my first experience with cold weather.
For real?
Yes.
You're originally from where?
Hampton, Virginia.
Okay.
Yes,
so it's
yes.
not as cold in Hampton as it is up in Connecticut?
Absolutely not. No, sir.
Wow.
Yes, I was like, when I remember that first semester in New Haven and walking out and seeing the snow up to the screen door, I said, what have I done? But it was, William Mary was a really great experience, lifelong friendships, but the opportunity that working in Colonial Williamsburg under the tutelage of Dr. Rex Ellis, who's a longtime historian, pastor, that planted the seed of the love of our history and the idea that you could do it publicly. And my educational opportunities, further that love of history, of Black history. But it was like, I didn't want to teach and go to law school, the two things people think you can do with history. It's like, how can I be able to share the work that share our history publicly? And through the conversation that led me to library science and archives. Yeah, so it's a
So let's talk
journey.
Let's talk radicalism and why sometimes it's necessary, which means if it's necessary, that means it's a good thing. Why sometimes it may not be the avenue that's necessary at a particular time, because the people that because radicalism is viewed as being a contrarian, right? Going against the grain, not liking how things are structured and all that stuff. Let me go to a family member. Did you ever have a conversation with your aunt about radicalism and why she felt the need at particular times to actually stand up and let it be known that what's going on at this particular time or that particular time ain't cutting it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the Josephs family in general, her siblings, my father-in-law, they were all radical. And walking into the family home, which was in Yonkers, New York, I was privileged to be on the perimeter of conversations that was always radical. And as an educator myself, hearing things that Gloria did in her works, whether it was at Cornell, being a part of the student activism in 1969, as we were going through papers, saw a lot of things that occurred during that time. She also taught at Amherst College. And so hearing the path that she traveled also colored the kinds of things that I did in my works as an educator.
Okay, good. So you mentioned Amherst College. That's another UMass. Is it
UMass
Amherst? Amherst College is in the same location.
Massachusetts. No, it's about 2 hours away from Boston.
Boston, yeah. No, but she mentioned Amherst College. Is that?
That's separate.
No, but is that in Amherst, Massachusetts?
No, so there's Amherst College,
Yeah.
and then there's UMass Amherst. It's a
Okay.
separate
No,
college.
I know it's separate universities, but where's the location for Amherst College? Is it in Amherst?
Amherst, correct.
Is it Amherst? Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, and I Gloria was at Amherst UMass, yes.
Amherst, UMass. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
And it's disruptive, right? To be radical, you
Yeah.
gotta be courageous.
Yeah.
And like you said,
But sometimes
it's
people
disruptive.
tend to focus on your emotions and not what you're saying.
Correct. But that's
Okay.
manipulation, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But sometimes, there are certain things that I consider myself radical about. But I'm sure when I look back at it, it isn't always the what. It's really the how, right? And communication is so critical, right? For example, I'm gonna give you a perfect example of, and Cassandra probably know about this. I was 40 years old when I ran for office 20 years ago. And my thing was St. Croix all the time because I felt that we were getting the short end of the stick, right? Here I am 20 years later, and now I have taken a more territorial perspective. Why? Because of age and because I believe a lot of the things that didn't happen for St. Croix in many instances were self-inflicted, right? Why, I'm looking, I have the benefit of hindsight, right?
Perspective,
2020, right? So I'm big on radicalism from the standpoint that at any time I should be able to articulate and let you know how I feel, just based on that premise. But when you're trying to solve a problem, you really need a certain level of, it's not necessarily calm, but just focus. I think focus is the best term, right?
And
We don't want radicalism to ever get to be an obstacle of focus and the direction.
Absolutely. Well, to chime in, I think often we think about radical as being unhinged or fringe, when to me, I really look at it, radical and revolutionary are the same thing. And to really, I think, love something, you want to see it transform. That's a paraphrase from Dr. Guy Sheftall. And also wanting to quote from the iconic Black feminist writer, cultural worker, Toni Cade Barr, whose papers we also have, who was a very radical transnational feminist. Also in her iconic book, The Black Woman, paraphrasing there, she said, what's not radical is when you're planning like a strike, but you have a term paper due. and she went down a list of things, but I think to her point was saying you have to also be strategic.
Yes.
But to me,
Yes.
radical and revolutionary means willing to fundamentally shift and believe in a world of processes that are free from systems and forms of oppression.
That's right.
And the sad thing is that shouldn't be really radical, but we know in this day and age it really is.
We're talking with Jamal Burke. We're going to talk a lot about his platform when we come back. We're also talking with Cheryl Joseph, Ms. Holly Smith. We definitely want to thank Cassandra Dunn for hooking us up here and analyze this, to have this awesome discussion centered around the incomparable Dr. Gloria Joseph. We'll take a break. Be back right after this. So we're back here to analyze this, and when Miss Smith. By the way, all of your last name. I'm gonna speak to you in local twang now, right? All of you, right? The three of y'all.
Okay.
That's the Yankee translation, right? All of you got local names. Joseph. Local. Big in throughout the Caribbean, right? Smith. Even big in Tortola in the British Virgin Islands. Dominant. I'm not talking big. Dominant in the British Virgin Islands and St. Thomas. Yeah. Bork. That's a big name here, man. You know what I'm saying? And I think one of Jay-Z's guys, his name was
Biggs.
You know what I'm saying?
Kareem
Biggs Burke. You know what I'm saying? So also the firm of Burke, Smith, and Joseph up in the house here this morning. So when you mentioned that guru line, right? Lemonade, right?
Yes,
lemonade was a popular drink,
and
it still is. I got more props and stunts than Bruce Willis. Then he said, "A poet like Langston Hughes that won't lose when I cruise out on the expressway."
Leaving the bodega, I say
suave. Clips are inserted into my gun now. You know what I'm saying? That's the radicalism, right? So I could get the money, never have to run, right? But that was actually a joint thing that he did with, I think it was Nice and Smooth.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. That was Dwick, right? That was Dwick down in Atlantic City. They went down Atlantic City and knocked that one out, right? So, the reason why I referenced that, and we're talking about literary skills, right? Education, knowledge, broadening your scope, all of that is a requirement if, in fact, a movement is going to be real. It just can't be about making a lot of noise, right? So you have to be able to see things, right? So we're talking radicalism. My favorite radical is Malcolm X. I remember now, his thing changed when he went on the pilgrimage, right? He goes to Mecca. He realizes, what they were telling us ain't necessarily how it is, and all that stuff. And then he comes back and he pays the ultimate price, right? But, and that's unfortunate for a number of reasons. But we're going to get into that today. What I want to focus on as relates to why, in this case, radicalism, but it isn't, I don't want it to be labeled as just radicalism because it's really brilliance. You know what I'm saying? That a person has the ability. They've recognized that I'm fortunate. I've been educated. Now, not everybody may be educated at my level. So I owe it to my people, and I owe it to the struggle to articulate the issues that are impacting us as a people, right? Yes. So that's the value of a Dr. Gloria Joseph in a nutshell, right? Yes. And she goes the literary route. Cassandra,
and it would be resetting consciousness, right?
That's of course. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't want platforms that we're fortunate to be communicating through to be taken for granted. Correct. I wouldn't want what you're doing. You focus on financial literacy. Mm-hmm. We hear the horror stories, right, about athletes who make hundreds of millions of dollars and then finding out down the road somebody might have shafted them for $20 million. And you ask that question, how, right? Why did this happen? And clearly the trust level went a little too far and not paying attention to detail, because it shouldn't take you more than 10 to 15 minutes to look over your financial situation, at least on a daily basis, to make sure that things are in order. Talk a little bit about why financial literacy is important.
Well, first off, financial literacy is extremely important because you can't save for retirement. You got to invest for retirement. Furthermore, what you was pointing out with respects to Malcolm X, he was told one thing, it was something else. Similarly, society has conditioned athletes to be codependent, right? Get the maid, get the cook, get the chauffeur, as opposed to doing things yourself, right? And that's similar to, it spills over to even with your finances. You don't have the wherewithal to look into your own finances. You want to be cool, say, I got an accountant, I have this one. You always want to outsource, right? But the true value is in your own self-education, and the financial literacy part comes in. You have to know how to invest the money. A really quick cheat code is like the S&P 500. That's an index in a stock market that comprises of all the top 500 largest companies in America. Since its inception in 1957, the average is 10.57% per year, right? Why is that important? It's important because it outmatches inflation. Inflation right now is about 3% per year. So that means your profit is 7%. But real quick, I wanted to address the athlete thing, right? Because that's something that's been continuously promoted and perpetuated in the media as far as you got to be black guys from inner cities go pro and go broke. But what they don't talk about is that the same agents, accountants, financial advisors that your head coach that you trusted, who's receiving kickback, right? So there's a conflict of interest to begin with. They're the ones who's robbing you. They're the one who's taking your money because you foolishly authorized them the executor right where they can just dip into your fund unauthorized, right?
But let me ask this question. Athletes get the draft is actually one of the biggest things in sports now, right? Whether it be basketball, football, baseball, what have you. Are we encouraging these young men to set aside 45 minutes to an hour a day to monitor their finances? Or are we telling them you need to hire an accountant? You need to hire a financial advisor.
The latter, right?
But that's the racket.
Correct. Right. That's the ecosystem.
Yeah.
You're feeding the ecosystem, right? Which would be disruptive and radical is if, like, AJ DeBon's the #1 high school player in the country. He just signed a $7 million NIL deal, name, image, and likeness deal, right? His father's managing that, right? Kyrie Irving's mother's the agent negotiating. No different back in 94, 96 when Ray Allen, UConn guy, when he was with Milwaukee, he hired then Johnny Cochran, $500 an hour just to look over. So those there's alternatives that are smart, shrewd.
But no, that's radical behavior.
Right. That would be deemed that, but it's actually smart.
No, that's what I was going to say. That's actually radical behavior to their benefit.
There you go.
Because I just can't trust you because you have a reputation. You got to earn my trust.
There you go. And there's nothing better than the double cross than the triple cross, right?
That's right.
But credit in closing, credit is extremely important. You got to know your credit score. That's something that it's the onus on you to educate yourself about that. And then the trust thing comes.
No, but I'm talking about real big names now, right? To include Tim Duncan.
We can talk about Tim Duncan, KG,
Kevin Garnett,
Walker, Boston guy, Walker.
The list goes on and on. Where they let their guard down.
Correct, but you think about that too. They're all in the same generation.
Yeah, man.
Right, in the same mindset.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and so and more importantly too, that agency circle, they just refer friends.
That's what it is, man.
So if I'm corrupt and you're corrupt, I'm gonna just say, hey, I got another one.
That's right.
I got another one. I got
right.
another one, and it's that carousel effect until somebody comes along like a LeBron James to say, hey, nah, I'm gonna do it my own way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's important.
I got more props and stunts than Bruce Willis. You know what I'm saying? Cassandra, if you could chime in here. The book you mentioned, Hell Under God's Orders, Hugo,
Yes.
written by Gloria Joseph and edited by her and Hortense Rowe. 1989 was a watershed year for us, a landmark year. We got direct hit here on St. Croix. She was here at the time?
Yes. She
Wow.
went through and actually, suffered like a number of us did with damage to the home and
Emotional trauma that we have never experienced before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But felt that it was an imperative to share some of those experiences and also to include the experiences of Virgin Islanders. And it's a telling book because when you read it, you kind of flashing back to your own experiences and you could, empathize, sympathize, and just really understand where we came from. And it also helped us focus for what would have been our next disaster, which when Maryland came along.
Yeah.
And again, she was here for that. And of course, Irma Maria.
She was here for that as well in
Yes.
2017
Yes.
when we had both of those.
Yep.
So the 4 major hurricanes.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so she went through, I believe with Audrey, she went through Maryland. But by Irma Maria, Audrey had passed.
Okay.
But the understanding, the importance of what those experiences brought to her table and to the rest of us will, long live.
Without a doubt. Spelman, I'm just doing my thing here, finding out now. The name actually came from the philanthropist, Ms. Rockefeller?
Yeah, so the Rockefeller family donated a significant amount of funding to Spelman, and they named it after Mrs. Rockefeller's, grandparents, who were abolitionists.
So by 1972, the Rockefeller family and related philanthropies had given approximately $27 million to Atlanta University Center, a consortium including Spelman and other historically black colleges. But I believe the original endowment was $1 million, I believe it was, for Spelman. That's interesting. I didn't know there was a Rockefeller connection, even though Rockefellers
Yes.
are big here in the Virgin Islands with St. John and the National Park Service, what have you. In the 1970s, the RBF gave an additional $1 million to Spelman Capital Campaign and recognized the Atlanta University Center as having favored nation status as the fund's principal vehicle for supporting African American higher education.
Yeah, and I always like to tell in terms of the origin story of Spelman. You had Sophia Packard and Harry Giles, the 2 white women who came, but they weren't coming into a vacuum. There were black communities there, and they were able to work with Father Quarles, who was the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church, where Spelman and Morehouse have their roots. They had their early classes there. And so working with the black communities there, Packard and Giles were able to help galvanize funding and support. And I think that's where the archives are so important, so you can get the in-depth, deeper look at some of the workings and what it took for these 2 women in a committed partnership, 2 white women in the South, but then you get a sense of understanding of the black community in Atlanta, what it came to successfully found a school and to still be in operation all these years later. And again, when I get back and thinking of the word radical and revolutionary, even if you just again thinking, and then again, tying back into our favorite MC, guru, but seriously, just the legacy of black education across the diaspora. There had to be the bravery, the revolutionary thinking, and the radicalism to imagine something different. And that's why, uplifting how important it is to have Dr. Gloria's papers in conversation with Audre Lorde, in conversation with Dr. Janetta B. Cole's papers here, anthropologist and first black woman president of Spelman, who was a dear sister compatriot of Audre Lorde and Dr. Gloria Joseph, so we can continue to have those conversations. Because like you were saying earlier, Mr. James, you might have thought different certainly 20 years ago than you do today, but
Yes.
I think, as do I, but I think that, again, thinking about the works of Dr. Gloria, Audre Lorde, Dr. Cole, you see kind of the intellectual growth, the shift and change. And I always say, this idea about black people but not being intellectually curious is foreign to me. So looking through the archives, you can see kind of the evolution of growth, thought, the way things change, the way things similar, the way people grow. And I think, again, like Ms. Cheryl and you and Jamal, Ms. Cassandra were saying that earlier, just the idea of uplifting in consciousness, and we're in constant growth. So again, I look forward to how Dr. Gloria's archives will just help us continue to collectively celebrate here, but to impact us all on how we can continue to intellectually grow.
I'm just smiling because you're using all these big words. That no, that my favorite rappers. You know what I'm saying? You said constant, right? Every time I hear constant, I think Rakim. Right?
Constant evolution.
Right.
But I think
Constant elevation, cause expansion. I rip my rounds while I cool in my mansion. You know what I'm saying? So,
But I think
so these are guys that move me.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I in other words, I don't want if I'm doing math that I gotta use my cell phone all the time.
absolutely.
You know, I want to sit down and knock things out and make sure that my brain is functioning, right? And
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
don't want to take these things for granted. I'd like to apologize, Cassandra. If I knew the conversation was going to be this dope, I would have given you the whole show. Unfortunately, you know, when things are going good, time runs out. So I want to thank the firm of Smith, Burke, and Joseph, along with Dunn, right, for joining me this morning to talk about the incomparable Dr. Gloria Joseph. Check this out. I'm a excuse you after the break. So we'll go to the break, and I'll give you a formal ability to thank the people, talk to us, all right? And then I'll bring in my second guest in hour number 2, Peter Holmberg. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters. The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back here wrapping up our conversation. I didn't want to just run my guests out of the... Turn up my headphones a little bit. You could turn, there we go. I didn't want to just run my guests out of the studio before we bring in Mr. Holmberg, Peter Holmberg. So I want to give all of them a chance to formally tell the people of the Virgin Islands how much they love being here and why they will always have a special place in their heart for the loveliness that is the Virgin Islands. So, Miss Joseph.
Yes. So I have connection to the island via family, through marriage. And I feel as though I am a native just by soaking in the sun. And it has been my honor and my privilege to come here to represent Aunt Gloria and the Josephs family.
That's what I'm talking about. So the terminology, right? You said I'm a native, right? The terminology is one a we, okay? One a we, right? That's one of us.
Yes.
That's the Yankee tone, like one of us.
One of us.
You're one a we. No, you there with us. Miss Smith, you good?
Yes. Yes. Well, first, I want to extend profound gratitude to you, Mr. James, Miss Cassandra Dunn, Miss Amina Salim, and Miss Cheryl Joseph for making us so welcome. And I feel home. And honestly, like whenever I'm in the community of other Black people across the African diaspora, I feel home. So I feel home here. And I feel the spirit of Sister Audrey. I feel the spirit of Dr. Gloria. So it's been an honor. Everyone's been wonderful. And I just can't wait to return and to continue this connection.
Talking about Mr. Burke.
Yeah, first of all, I want
pleasure to meet you, man.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you as well. This was a very productive, festive conversation, but both education and
By the way,
entertaining.
let me just say one of my listeners, and she said, brilliant and awesome discussion. Thank you. So,
Oh, wow.
y'all made a great impression. You know what I'm
Thank
saying? And Wallace Williams also sent a text message as well. Yeah, he's a librarian, so I don't know if you're gonna meet if you're gonna meet with her, but I didn't mean to cut you off there. But go ahead, Mr. Burke.
No, in short, I heard the expression by land and by sea, and I believe it's Cane Island, Cane Hill. What's the
Cane Bay,
Cane Bay.
yeah, over there by State Canaan.
Yeah.
Cane Bay, yeah.
So I had the good fortune a few years ago to come to St. Croix, and that's where I was at, and I had for the first time was scuba diving.
Okay, yeah, that's over there by Cane Bay.
Yeah. So it actually manifested by land and by sea.
Yeah,
so I know both. And you said one wang?
One away.
One away.
One
Now it's one away.
One. If I was to break it down, right? One of we.
One of we.
One of we. That's
One of
that's three. That's three singular words. We don't make it one word. One a we.
One of
Everybody, yeah. One a we.
That's priceless. We're gonna just leave it there, right there.
So
it's a mic drop right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so you ala yo
Right.
is one a week. That's how we break it up.
That's love is love. Love is love.
Well, that's actually part of the culture. That's the beautiful. That's the African coming out and us, having the ability to communicate. You know what I mean? So we go with that. So I'm gonna see all y'all. I'm gonna see all of y'all again. All of y'all.
All of y'all.
Yeah. That Yankee thing. I'm gonna see all of y'all again.
That's the Southern way. Absolutely.
Okay, good. And we got to talk about Yonkers.
Yonkers.
Because that there's some rich Black people history up in Yonkers, which is suburban Westchester County.
Yes.
And we at some point we got to bring that one back up again.
Absolutely.
Because my dad told me something back in '86 about Yonkers, right? A reference, right? And I want to get into that. I reference it from time to time, but I want to get into that in more detail because suburban New York City is really huge in Black people's history in America.
Yes.
And that's something that we need to talk about.
Absolutely.
And that includes northern New Jersey, Long Island, and Connecticut, and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Cassandra, pour bow tie on the discussion. Thank you for making this happen on Arch Thursday here on Listeners.
Well, thank you so much. You mentioned Wallace a few minutes ago. A year before Gloria died, they sent her home to live for just 2 weeks. She had breast cancer.
Okay, sorry to hear
And
that.
but she had a goal. She wanted to, make a film. She wanted to revise her book and all. And Wallace started meeting with us, and he was such an important part of that last year of her life. And so, a shout out to Wallace. Also, a shout out to Helga Emd, who was Gloria's partner in her later years, for all the support and just the total love that she had for Gloria as well.
Wallace had a question. When the materials are cataloged, right, will they be digitized, thus available to researchers? Ms. Smith.
That's a great question. Well, and there is a possibility, yes, we would need funding and support, but we definitely want to make Dr. Gloria's collection accessible, especially to our community in St. Croix.
Thank you very much. So, I'm trying to figure out the best way. I think Burke, Joseph, and Smith. It's the best way for it to be.
I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
I don't
Joseph
mind bringing
Smith.
up the rear.
Like when we were growing up, it was Alias Smith and Jones, right? So you gotta have a one-syllable name to end it. You know what I'm saying? So we go Burke, Joseph, and
Strongly,
Smith. You know what I'm saying? Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
And
Thank you.
this is the reason. One of the things that me and one of my table talk panelists always brag about. We want to be more learned at 10 a.m. than we were at 8 a.m. And I'm more learned at 9 a.m. than I was at 8 a.m. And I didn't even know the Rockefellers were big abolitionists.
Yes.
You know, so, which is
Well,
critical.
The Spelman.
Yeah.
family.
No, yeah, but they actually said that. Yeah, they actually said that. So I got some more research to do. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And looking forward to meeting you and talking with you again.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Burke,
Thank
we got multiple conversations to have in the future.
Absolutely. I look forward to them all.
Yeah. No, but the financial literacy part in particular, I really want to get into that because we need to encourage athletes and young black men who are fortunate enough to command big dollars at a young age.
Absolutely.
To get into the mindset of managing your own. You know, we just a baseball player just signed a $765 million contract.
Yeah, 15 years, yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. You know what I'm
It
saying?
is.
I'm happy for him, you know, but $50 million a year, I mean, half of that is taxes anyway, right?
Yeah,
Or
fun fact, $75 million signing bonus, meaning
Yeah.
it's in his bank
in
account.
a bank account, yeah.
That's
yeah.
the money in his bank
You
account.
know what I'm saying? So, you know, these are the things that we take for granted. Just because you got money, everything's okay. That's not the case.
No.
More money, more
problems.
problems. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
That's Biggie.
That's big, you know what I'm saying? I can't help it. I can't help it. Thank you very much to all of y'all. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Cassandra, for making me look good this morning. Appreciate that. So we're going to transition, and I got all three of mine. Just one. Just one, right? You can have these two. You'll take the. No, I'll take the poetry, and I'll take Hugo. Hell under God's orders. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, I'd like to thank Miss, so I said his names correctly, Miss Sharon Joseph, Miss Holly Smith, Mr. Jamal Bottomline Burke, and of course Cassandra Dunn for making hour number one the successful hour that it is. We're going to transition now. We got Mr. Holmberg on the line. He's not on yet, so he's not on yet. So I'll do some research about Mr. Peter Holmberg because I had mentioned him last week, and hopefully we could make it happen as a Virgin Islander who participated in I think it was the 1988 Olympics. Hold on. No, let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, won a silver medal. The 1988 Olympics, that was in Seoul, Korea, back in 1988. We going to call him? We're going to check him? We'll find out. If that's the case, let me keep these people here and take advantage of their time here because I ain't want no dead ear until we get Mr. Holmberg. Let's get back to Yonkers. Put on those headphones. When I was 22 years old, and we went to a nightclub. An incident happened, and one of the guys, told them who he was, but they happened to call my father because my father was a popular person here at the time, Dr. James, right? So check out this reference, right? He said that nightclub, a lot of things going on in that nightclub, and the conversation goes on. He said, and my biggest problem is that they won't go up in Yonkers. He was referring to East End, where the wealthy people live.
Yes.
That's it, right? He said they won't go to Yonkers, where the bad stuff is originating, but they'll go down into Harlem.
Yes.
And he was talking about the project areas.
Yes.
Down here, right? So his thing was they won't go in the suburbs, but they go into the city, right? But that's a pervasive mentality in America, right? Where they always stereotype folks who live in the inner cities, as folks who are willing to do anything
Yes.
to get over it. And that's not necessarily the case. And also the connection that I wanted to make was that when we are of means, we should want to not live under, next to, and below people. If we could build a house, if we could buy a townhouse, do things of that nature, we would want to do that. That's what the suburbs are provided, right?
Yes.
Yonkers and in Westchester County, that's a rich area as it relates to education for Black people.
Well, in the early 80s, they had the major desegregation
Correct.
issue. And it was a major problem. And during that time frame, I worked at Roosevelt High School, which had just became integrated. They closed down Yonkers High School. So you had all these Black students coming into Roosevelt. And
But that whole area, that Westchester, that Mount Vernon, New Rochelle,
Vernon, New
White
Rochelle,
Plains,
yes.
Yonkers, right?
all of that, all of those villages and cities
Townships, yeah.
and townships
Yeah.
have their own separate school districts. So Yonkers has theirs,
Yeah.
being a large city school. I worked in a little village called Elmsford, New York. So yeah, they're all different. Hence, the education systems are different, as well as the outcomes. We have Black schools.
Go ahead.
We have our Black school districts like Mount Vernon and parts of Yonkers, and then we have our other schools, Scarsdale, Ardsley, and Chappaqua. So there is that disparity along the educational lines as well. And being radical, I say the radical thing now is learning to read.
Yeah, man.
And learning
Yeah,
to write.
yeah.
And even as we were going through Gloria's materials, one of the things that was noted was handwritten letters. And handwritten letters in cursive, that is a dying breed. And being radical in learning how to read is the new freedom, because the lack thereof is the new slavery.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying, if I could, we have Mr. Holmberg? We good? If I could do anything to encourage our folks, I'm big on the library, right? I think one of the lost treasures in America right now, is the library. Why? The advent of the cell phone. I could get everything I want. I could Google everything I want, so I don't need to go to the library, which was a research, necessity back in the day. So I'm big on that. Burke, Joseph, and Smith.
And our tagline is not what you know, it's what you could prove.
Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. Right.
Be prepared for intellectual warfare. You talk to us, you better get ready.
Thank you very much once again for being here.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Mr. Peter Holmberg, you there?
Yes, I am.
That's what I'm talking about. Sorry for the gremlins, but I'm glad that you're here with us this morning. I had a great conversation to start the show, and I'm looking forward to talking with the firm once again in the future. All right, you take care. All right, nice to meet you. And Ms. Joseph, nice to meet you as well. You got it. Peter Holmberg, it's an honor to have you and analyze this this morning. I can't remember who I was speaking with when we referenced you. It may have been Rocky Leibert or somebody, but we were talking about our athletes. Oh, no. What happened was we had the good folks on. They were talking about the sailing. There was a regatta last week in St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. You familiar with that?
Yes.
And we reference your greatness. So I want to first of all officially welcome Olympic silver medalist Peter Holmberg. We out at St. Thomas to analyze this morning. Good morning, sir. Glad to have you on.
Yeah, good morning, Neville. Thank you.
Okay, good. Tell the public a little bit about yourself before we get into all of your accomplishments.
All right. Well, to start with, I guess I was born at New Hanson Memorial here on St. Thomas. My father was in the Navy and submarines. That's how he discovered the island. And he brought my mother here on a honeymoon with a little bit of a plan that she didn't know about. And he'd applied for a job. Anyhow, he checked on the job, got the job. And him and my mother loved it here and decided to stay, never left.
That's what I'm talking about. Your father and your mother. Your father and mother originally from where?
From Chicago.
Oh, Windy City.
Yeah.
Windy City to Paradise makes sense, don't you think?
Yeah, well, my father was an adventurer, from when he was based here in Submarines, he fell in love with it. So he convinced my mom to come back, and that's where it all started. And we grew up down at Limburg Bay. There was a peninsula of land now where the Port Authority building is there. The Navy had some housing there, so that's where my brother and I both grew up the early years. And we actually had a family from St. Kitts living with us, Cynthia Boyles and her two kids. My parents took them in to.
That's awesome. No, hold on a second, Peter. I just got a text message, Rafi. He said he's not coming through. Some people saying they ain't hearing him. I'm hearing him perfectly, but one of my listeners just texted me and said he's not coming through. So we'll continue the conversation because we do a podcast, and then we'll work on that. So what school you went to, Peter?
I went to Catholic, and then I went to Charlotte Omni, and then I dropped out. It's something I'm kind of proud of because it ended well. I went down to CVI and took night courses, got my GED. I had that much sense. And then I left the island for a short break and went to college in America. And that was a great thing because then I was serious about learning. If I wasn't going to be home, I was going to be serious and learn. So I actually got a degree out there in California.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. No, hold on a second. Eddie Bruce, you said that he's not coming through, but one of the people, Muchi Shang, just told me he's coming through fine. He's coming through good. So I don't know if you're hearing him now. Eddie, text me to let me know if you could hear the conversation on Peter's part because I want to make sure everybody could hear what the conversation is all about. So after you get a GED, you say went to California?
Yeah, I did. It was a break, and that was the big lesson for me. I was fooling around. I was kind of a young kid having
You were
fun.
young. You were young. We ain't holding that against you, man. No, sir. No, man. You had the right to. You had the excuse, right, of youth, right? So we good with that, right? So
yeah.
So what part?
Really good.
What part of California you been?
I went to Northern California. I didn't like the big cities, so I went to a place called Sonoma where they grow the wine. And there's a university there that had a sailing team, and that's what I decided on.
Okay, we streaming the conversation, so just stay a little bit off camera. Stay in front of the camera so that people could see you, Peter. Okay, good. Okay. By the way, Eddie Bruce texted me and said that he's clear, so we good now. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna take a break. We're gonna pick up the conversation back in Sonoma. I want to talk about Sonoma because I found out about Sonoma from sports myself. So I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about how you took your game to the next level, to the highest levels, and then was able to defend us, to represent us, in Seoul in 88. We'll take a break and be back right after this. And we're back here to analyze this, and I'm fortunate to have joining me today. I guess it's a Sports Thursday as well as an Arts Thursday. Olympian and silver medalist from the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, the one and only Peter Holmberg. Good morning, sir. Glad to have you on.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you.
Okay, good. Where are you at right now?
I'm sitting at a dining room table in St. Thomas looking out at Hans Lalik.
Oh, God, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about. So, Sonoma, right? Now, I love me some California, right? I've been up in the Bay Area a couple of times, but I don't think I've been north of the Bay Area, and Sonoma is north of the Bay Area. Talk a little bit about Sonoma.
Yeah, it came about by chance, actually. Me and my girlfriend were here in St. Thomas, and she wanted to go back to college, and I was smart enough to know I needed a little more education before I went off into the big life. And these friends of ours just said, look, man, we know you well, and we think you'd like Northern California. And so we said, let's give it a try, and if we didn't like it, we'd move around. And we found this little town, Santa Rosa, had a little junior college that let me into with only my GED. And I got started there, and I loved it. It was, and then the big school was Sonoma State University, and so when I got to 2 years, I stepped up to that.
And so you went to Sonoma State after?
Yeah, I moved from the junior college to Sonoma State University. They had a sailing team, and it was pretty cool because we competed against the big ones in the Bay Area: San Francisco, Berkeley, Stanford.
Wow.
So it was great for me. It gave me a chance to play my game, you know.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, the big schools you just mentioned, UC Berkeley, right? That's in Berkeley. Stanford's in Palo Alto. San Jose State, University of San Francisco. That's in the city, right?
You got them. You named them all.
You compete against all those big schools?
Yeah, correct. We were in their league, and there was a fellow from Sweden at Sonoma at the same time, and the two of us kind of made a mark. You know, Sonoma was known for its agriculture and frisbee and granola, and these two fellows showed up and kind of shocked the little sailing team, and we went out and made a mark. It was pretty cool.
So Io beat up all the big schools?
Yeah, we didn't knock them out, but we made our presence known, and so that was pretty cool. It was a big thing for me because that was my first time realizing that I had a skill from just being a kid in the islands to when I went in the big league, I actually could take some scouts, you know.
So when did you recognize, I might be Olympic level sailor?
That was the time, honestly. You know, we played here in the islands. We just against each other and raced hard. But until you go up against the bigger league, you don't know. And that was my waking up and realizing that I actually had a skill. And the Olympic thing, it's unique to us, and people need to realize how great it is. I grew up as a kid watching my parents and my elders go to the Olympics, because I think it was in 64 or 68 that a few guys here lobbied to become a separate nation in the Olympics. We were part of America, but we became a separate nation. And it's a wonderful opportunity. And I watched my parents and elders, you know, go off and do the Olympics. So it always sat in the back of my mind as the ultimate dream if I wanted to carry on.
That's what I talking about. So 64 was Tokyo, 68 was Mexico City, right? Of course, Mexico City will always be one of the historic Olympics with the Black Power movement for John Carlos and Tommy Smith. And the Australian, his name was Peter too. I will get his name again. He was ostracized when he went back to Australia, but that's for a different topic. So let's look at it from Olympic cycles. Where were you in your sailing game in '84 in Los Angeles?
Yeah, so I finished school in '82, came back to St. Thomas and set my sights on '84. Borrowed, begged money to put together a campaign, trained here at home. And then I went off for the last 6 months to the States. The games were in Los Angeles. And I just went out there as a one-man show and trained alongside all the teams that were there warming up. So I kind of jumped in, invited myself to their party. And it was kind of a crash course campaign, I would say, short-lived. But I competed there in my class called the Finn. It's a one-man boat. And I finished 11th out of 36, and the world champion was 13th. So that was, for me, I was like,
the answer is approximately 0.
So I was pretty pleased with that. That was Los Angeles. And then, honestly, when the big moment came, I was driving back across the country with my fin on my roof, And that's when I kind of sat and spent a lot of time thinking about it and said, if I could do that with 1 year, maybe I could really put together a proper campaign and make a bigger mark. So
No, hold
that's
on.
where I hatched my.
Hold on a second. So you're driving back across the country. So you were driving from LA to Florida?
Yeah, man. So I had a fin, and this is like a 15-foot boat, and I put it on the roof of a van. My Guatemalan friend needed to get his van back to Florida, so I said, well, let me move my fin back to Florida. So sorry, could you say that? Put it on the roof and drive across the country back to Florida. So a lot of time on the road,
So you want what? That would be the I-10, right? From LA to Jacksonville, all the way across the country, and then you head down to Florida, head down to Miami. I mean.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers, man. I was following the map and heading east. But it was really, I'll never forget it, because there's a lot of time to reflect on what just happened and make a game plan, and that's where I hatched my idea. So 84 was great. I was really proud of what I did, but that is where the seed came from for doing the next one.
That's what I'm talking about. So let's go through the Olympic cycles. I'm a junkie. You know what I'm saying? I'm a sports junkie. So don't hold it against me for getting excited talking to an Olympian here. So the next big games would be 86, the Central American and Caribbean Games. You participated in those?
Yes, correct. And that's the way you should look at things here. In our islands, we've got these stepping stones to get to the games.
To get to the Olympics, yeah.
Yeah, so CAC is every 4 years. It's on a cycle. So in 86 would be the CAC Games.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think, in the Dominican Republic. And then the 87 Pan Am Games. That was
in Indianapolis, I think, in 87, right?
Yes, correct.
How'd you make out in Dominican Republic?
In the DR, I got a silver medal. Cuba got gold. I got silver.
Oh man, that's what I thought. So you were ascending, and at least regionally, right, in the Central American and Caribbean zone, you were up there.
Yes.
So that's a good thing, and I'm sure that motivated you even more. So Pan American Games in '87, which is a great year because that's the year I graduated from college, Peter. So we're good. Tell us about how they set up the sailing in Indianapolis, which is in the heartland of America.
Yeah, every place they host the big games, be it Olympics or something else, they have to look for the best water point for that,
Mm-hmm.
And Indianapolis, we were sailing the bottom of Lake Michigan.
Okay.
And it's not known for its sailing for a good reason. It was very light winds, and anyway, it's not my normal conditions. But it's good competition because the game gets bigger. That's Canada shows up, America shows up.
South America.
And
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So it didn't have my type of boat. It didn't have the fin class, so we switch over to the laser class, which is a baby brother to the fin. And I'm a little big for that boat, so I wasn't optimum. But the day it blew, I think I got a first and a second. But in the lighter air days, I wasn't as competitive. But it was all about getting the competition. I didn't get a medal. I don't even remember how I finished, but it was all part of the process,
That's what I'm talking about. So, you were excited because the next year now we head into Seoul. That's 1988 Olympic Games. The focus at that games, of course, was the 100 meters with Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis and all that stuff. So, but you represented the Virgin Islands and you got that silver medal. Walk us through how that whole thing came about, to include preparation, like say the last 2 to 3 months before you actually head off to Seoul.
Yeah, thanks for asking, man. This is my life dream, The key things that I hope the kids all hear and other people understand, the game plan is where it all started. And what I saw in '84 was a lot of burnout. To do a full 4 years of training, I watched a lot of guys around me kind of burn out, and I did my real short-lived, sharp campaign and did all right with just a year and a half. So my game plan started. I said, okay, I'm going to diversify, do other types of racing, but I'm going to take 2 years off, and I'll pull the covers off of my boat 2 years to the day before the games, and then dive in head first.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I started training here at home because I didn't have the funds to go anywhere else. I am smart enough to see we got the best sailing conditions in the world. We just don't have the competition. So I had a boat in America and I had a boat here, and I would fly up to the States, do a race against the big fleet, get used to big competition, but then come back here and put in the hours. And then the key things for me, one was the racing was going to be in this town called Busan, Korea. And it's in the Sea of Japan. Didn't know a thing about it. and they were going to use a fin boat made by Hyundai. Again, another big unknown. So the smart thing I did is I said, I'm going there. They had a preliminary regatta 1 year before the games called the Pre-Olympics. And I set that as my goal. Had to raise some serious money to get there, but flew to Korea, rented one of these. They made 10 prototypes to test them out. And so I did that. That was a recon mission that was really good because the brochures all said very light winds in Korea. But when you get there, that report came from the airport. The actual sailing was in the Sea of Japan with big waves and big currents and big winds. And this Hyundai fin was also a very unusual boat, felt strange, went slow. So I made a big decision there. I said, okay, number one, I'm going to train back home the whole time. We got the conditions here at home. Number two, I'm going to get one of these Hyundais and ship it back to St. Thomas and sleep in that thing for the final year or two.
Wow.
So I did. Yeah, that was the big thing for me. So decision to train here and to get this boat. Really good. And then I did a very good thing too, very important. We don't have competition here. And so what I smartly did was I brought in the competition. I found a guy from Argentina, Gonzalo Campero. He was doing a one-man show just like me. He was a great guy. And I said, Gonzalo, man, come to my island. I'll give you a boat. I'll give you a place to live unless the two of us just train. So I got like a sparring partner. And he was a great guy. And the two of us just buckled down and trained here for the final year together. And there's the nuts and bolts. Now I'll just give one little life lesson in this process. 1 year before the games, I had an accident. I cut off my big toe.
What?
And yeah, man. But let me tell you, here's lessons in life, man. This little setback turned out to be a game changer for me because all of a sudden I had to sit on my back for a month with my foot in the air. I didn't know if I could run, exercise, hike. And it was a pause, it was a stop, and it was a scare. And it's called post-traumatic growth. And I credit this accident with making me realize that, okay, I was training, I was doing a good job. But when you almost have your dream taken from you, you take pause and you go, how bad do I want this? And that's when I realized this is my one chance. I'm 27 years old. It's the peak of my sailing skill in my life. And if I'm going to do this, man, let me do it right. And I doubled down. So that was a game changer for me. I don't recommend you go out and cut off a digit. But
Right.
the lesson there is take a pause and step away. You know, same thing I did with school. Getting off the island is when I realized, yeah, man, stop fooling around, man. You need an education before you go out in the big world. And same with my sailing, my racing career there in the Olympics. I was grateful to have this little time out, it turns out, that made me appreciate how important this was and to how hard I should try to.
Now, the Olympics got a story about you, and they wrote a story about you in September of 2020, right? And they referred to the sailor that took on Seoul 1988. And they said that you had a shaky start to the competition in 88, but then things got better, and the next thing you know, you win a silver medal. What was a shaky start?
You know, that's called nerves, man. That's called 2 years of training. You go out there and the show starts. You know, the curtain comes up.
The butterflies,
And,
the butterflies getting the best of you?
Yeah, you get a little butterflies, yeah, but lack of confidence, you know, and the fight. It turned out to be my mark throughout my career. My first race in any championship, I would lose. And then I'd take off my gloves. Okay, let's fight. And so that was it for me. A little shaky start, meaning I didn't know wasn't confident which way to go for the current and the wind. But, you know, I went out and passed boats the whole race long.
But that's what I'm talking about. If you had a shaky start, that means that you had to have a strong finish. So talk about a strong finish.
Yeah, so, you know, these Olympics back then, the race, we had to sail for an hour from the shore to get to the course.
Yeah.
The race itself takes about 2 hours long.
Wow.
And it's a test of stamina. And, you know, you dig deep. And anyway, that was my first race. And, man, I went into those games, I wanted to do respectable. Top 10 was my hope. My dream was a medal, but I had never raced against the world champion. And I wasn't on the international circuit, so I was a bit of an unknown. But that's where, you know, that's like the butterflies went. You realize, okay, it's game on, and how bad do I want it? And it's a series of 7 races. And so the first race, I think I ended up 16th. Again, there's about 35 countries there. and I got 16th in the first race. And then after that, I was either first, second, or third in every race
Wow.
until the end.
That's why talking about who won the gold medal.
Yeah, Spain, and it came down, my friend. Why you hear this 2 hour race, and I went into the last race. I think I was in second or third position, but there were 6 of us fighting for a medal. And the last race turned out to be a storm. I mean, blowing hardest wind ever in the Olympics, 25, 30, big waves. And, so you go in there again with a measure of caution. Hey, I'm in the medal hunt. But halfway through the race, I'll never forget, I did the math. I was laying in about 6th position in that race. I looked around and said, man, I ain't getting a medal if the race finished now. And that's when I threw caution to the wind. I said, boy, I went down this next leg, afraid of turning over. If you capsize, it's going to set you back and you're going to fall back in the fleet until you right the boat. So, but I just put caution aside and fought and climbed back up. And son, I was in 2nd place in the race, and I had America in 3rd, and I had Spain in 4th, and that would have got me the gold medal.
Yeah.
And we're on the final little stretch to the finish. And America was stupid, man. He tried to pass me, and I showed him he couldn't pass me. He stayed in front of Spain. You hear me getting vexed, man. It was a hard thing. And this fellow didn't do what was logic. He kept coming with me, and he should protect his position. He was doing the best he ever did in the regatta. But I blocked him, so he should have known to look behind and cover. And anyhow, I finished the race 2nd, and then Spain and America came to the finish line. And
Yeah,
America crossed first,
yeah.
and I got gold, but Spain crossed first, and I got silver.
We're talking.
I had a half a second of disappointment, and then I realized I got a friggin' medal.
That's why we're talking with Peter Holmgren, Peter Holmberg, the Olympic silver medalist in the 1988 Seoul Olympics. The gold medal was won by Jose Luis Doreste from Spain, and the bronze medal was won by John Cutler from New Zealand. You beat out New Zealand, and a big country. When we come back, we're gonna run through the list of people that felt the wrath of Peter Holmberg in Seoul. We'll take a break and be back right after this.
Not hearing you, Neville. Testing 1, 2. Not hearing you, Neville.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Now I hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, there we go. So Spain gets the gold, the Virgin Islands gets the silver, New Zealand gets the bronze, Great Britain finished fourth, Denmark finished fifth, France finished sixth, the Netherlands finished seventh, Russia finished eighth, Finland finished ninth, and America finished in 10th place. So Peter Holmberg, man, you were rubbing shoulders with the best of the best, man. Congratulations. 36 years later, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Neville. It's the most wonderful thing ever.
It's
an
an honor.
Sits with me to this day.
Nah, man, it's an honor for me to be talking with a silver medalist in sailing from the Seoul Olympic Games. Now, last week I had on the Virgin Islands Sailing Association folks, or the folks who were dealing with the regatta, and Michael McCarthy, Julie San Martin, John Schaefer, and they were saying that a lot of the All-Americans and leading sailors in America, a lot of them grew up here in the Virgin Islands. You familiar with this fact, this reality?
Yeah, that's one way of describing it. It's unfortunate. I'll try to stay positive about this, but some of our kids that have grown up here that are incredibly good, they've chosen to go to the States and compete under the American flag. And, that's a choice they made. I would like to see it different. I would like to see them choose to stay here and fly our country's flag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't blame them, though. In fairness to them, you can't blame them, right? I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. But sometimes you can't blame them. They assimilate after moving, and all that stuff. And let's face it, from a resources standpoint, we literally can't compete with the resources that they more than likely have access to, Peter.
Well, let me just put, like you say, I respect what others have done, but I will just tell you my theory. We have the best sailing conditions in the world.
That's what they said last week. That's what they said last week on the show. That's the biggest attribute that we have in our favor.
Yeah, I can say it. I've been around the world, and we have it the best. Okay, so what we lack is competition and resources. Well, what I say to you is maximize your advantages and find a way to overcome those disadvantages.
Agreed.
That's what I did.
Agreed.
And, I did a training camp when I was here doing my thing. I put on a training camp. And so they signed up like nothing, So my point is, I think we could find a way to keep our athletes home.
I agree.
And, there's billionaires here, man. There's more billionaires per square inch in St. John than there is in America.
You ain't lying, Peter. Hey, Dave Davis, if you're listening to the show.
I think we could find the resources.
Yeah. Dave Davis, if you're listening, I know you're a sports junkie like me, and you work for the governor, and you're hearing what Peter Holmberg said, right? See if I could put a group of people together, right? Because if, in fact, and I have no reason to doubt it because I live here, it's the truth, we do have the best natural conditions for training, which is what you're saying, right, Peter? Right?
Exactly.
Then let's invest with this attribute in our back pocket and get these young people to reconsider. We can't tell them what to do, but at least reconsider representing the Virgin Islands as opposed to representing Uncle Sam. You know what I'm saying? Because if Peter Holmberg could have done it 36 years ago, that's proof that it can be done. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you. A couple of comments I just want to relate to you, Peter, because you do have a big fan club, right? Ms. Gwen Marie Molinar said, Peter's story to success is one our young people need to hear and be inspired by. How do we get this to them? So have you done a documentary, Peter? Is there anything that you've done in addition to this conversation you're having here with Neville James this morning that we could put together? Has anybody approached you? Because your story is really, an inspirational story par excellence.
Yeah, thanks, Neville. Well, invite me on anytime. To answer your question, they did something a long time ago called VI Heroes. It was a St. Croix TV station, Channel 2 or something. I know they did that, but WTJX is doing one right now. They've got a documentary in the can. I don't know if they're waiting for me to die to put it out or what, but hopefully they're going to.
No. I didn't know about it, but I know about it now. So I gonna do what I could do to see how we can make that work.
Makita Russell.
Makita Russell,
really
yeah. No. Then it's gonna happen sooner than later if Makita name associated with it.
Yeah, but to speak to your point, which is great, I'd just like to make two things known. I think sport is one of the greatest things that we have as a society for our kids. It saved me, man. I was playing around on a bad path, and it was my sport of sailing that kept bringing me back to the good road. And sport is just a wonderful thing. You take it with you for life, man. So I do believe our community, our government should put more focus on sport. I love what they're doing right now with Elia Boston, what they've done with Timmy Duncan, but we can do more, man. Don't just utilize them for marketing like you just said a minute ago, man. Let's put them in front of our kids so they idealize them, man. You know what a wonderful life it is to be a sportsman and go around the world flying the VI flag?
I tell you, Mr.
And if we can get our little kids to dream this start doing it.
You know what? Since you bring that up, I didn't mean to cut you off. Talk about the moment you're standing on the podium and rocking the Virgin Islands colors, getting that silver medal. Did you cry?
Yeah, man.
You know how we just say, right? Did you bawl? You didn't cry. Did you bawl, Peter?
No, I didn't bawl, man. It was such a shock, you know. But I've carried it with me for life, man.
You got
and
to.
that's where I'd like to speak to the Olympics. The Olympics is the holy grail, man.
Especially
in our sport of sailing.
Hey, Peter, just the selfish side of me. I wish you had win the whole thing so we could have heard that VI anthem, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we taking the silver. We taking the silver. Don't worry about it. We taking the silver.
Well, listen, I've flown my flag around the world, and they've played that VI anthem in Italy, Spain, Switzerland. I've played the anthem, so don't you worry. People come up to me halfway through the event. Hey, man, we're not going to find your flag. We're going to find your anthem.
The Virgin Islands March. The Virgin Islands March, without a doubt. Yeah. Another listener, my friend Kenneth Chalterbrand, said that he sailed with your brother. You got brother John, who used to sail back in the day?
Yeah.
Holmberg. Right? Yeah. That's what he said, John Holmberg. Here, what's it? Trimaran Coconut back in the 1980s.
Yeah. My brother is a world-class sailor. He won the nationals, and him and I were tough competitors growing up. He's 2 years older than me. He's an incredible sailor. He's got more seat of the pants than me. He could smell wind 10 miles upwind.
Wow, yeah. And of course, and Terry T told me Peter's a humble guy, a wealth of knowledge. So you got a good fan club, man. People love you, Peter, man. You deserve it. I mean, thank you for representing the Virgin Islands throughout the years. Now, America's Cup. Talk about that. Talk about your history with that, because that's big competition, global competition, and winning. Talk about that.
Yeah. So for people that don't understand, sailing's a complicated sport. But just to know, the two big events in our world is the Olympics, number one, and the America's Cup, number two.
Mm-hmm.
The America's Cup is like NFL for us in sailing. It's the big league, man. There's big money. It's countries.
What's the frequency? Annually or every other year or whatever?
No, there's no set number. It's usually about every 4 years.
Okay.
Because whichever country wins it has to put the infrastructure together to host the next game.
Okay.
And it's an incredible challenge. So where I say the Olympics is the best, it's because the equipment is all identical, and it's the person who wins the medal. What the America's Cup is, it broadens the game. You get to bring your own boat, all within a parameter, so you have to be pretty close, but you bring in technology and the sailing skills. And it's huge, you know, and it's... So as a kid, I didn't follow it, let's say, but as I got older, it's the big league. And the cool story is, in 1995, we got licks with Maryland, as you might remember, and the islands get wiped out.
Yeah, Maryland, yeah.
And New Zealand, the little tiny nation of New Zealand, took down America and won the America's Cup.
Yeah, I remember that, the Kiwis. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that was a big moment in that league. And at the same time, there's this type of racing called match racing. Only two boats line up at one time. So they have a real duel. It's a cool form of racing. Instead of 40 boats together, even if there's 40 people competing, it's one-on-one. And it happened to be the type of racing I was getting into at the time. And I was ranked number 1 or 2 in the world. And I'll tell you, here's the value of carnival and drinking rum, because a friend of mine from St. Thomas said, Pete, man, why we don't go to the America's Cup, put together a VI team? Well, in the middle of the rum squall, I said, that's a great idea. So that's where an idea came to do it. And we said, okay, let's give it a try. We launched it. A bunch of guys backed us to begin with, and we just kept taking steps. And we put together a VI America's Cup Challenge. And it is honestly one of the proudest things I've ever done. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it was one of the proudest things because this was going to be a national team. The coolest thing was it was going to be like having a team in the NFL or baseball. And
but that's what it says. Man. That's what it says here in the article on the Olympics website. In 1996, Holmberg formed Team Caribbean for the 2000 America's Cup in New Zealand. The America's Cup is the oldest trophy in international sport. And I raised a good money. They said I raised $5 million, Peter. It's true.
Yeah, man. Amazing. Wow. Amazing. And Neville, that was the coolest thing I've ever done, man. You had white and black coming together. You had taxi man giving me money. It gave us all. It brought us all together.
Oh man,
it was
that's
such
awesome.
a big dream. It brought us all together, and I really tried to make that fly. And
then you merge with the one and only Dennis Conner.
Yeah, but let's just say how that happened. It was kind of a tricky thing. You have deadlines going along. It's a short time frame. We had 2 years to raise this money to build the boat, and if you don't make a deadline, you stop. And that's what we faced. We faced a deadline to start building this boat, and we needed $10 million or something. And we came so close to getting Bacardi rum. That was going to be our dream sponsor. In Puerto Rico, lots of meetings. Anyhow, so we had to pull the plug. We had to turn off. I have a little regret that we didn't scrape together and buy a used boat and go there, and that's a tough one, you know. But Dennis Conner made us a wonderful offer, and I'm not sure the Virgin Islands really saw it or heard it. He took on every one of our sponsors and said, "You are welcome in our house. Come be part of our team." And anyhow, I joined Dennis Conner, who was the big legend at the time.
Yes, Stars and Stripes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great guy to learn from. I mean, I'm very grateful for him taking me on board, and I sailed.
But Peter, he was also fortunate to get the man himself, Peter Holmberg, joining his team as well. And I know you're not in the patting on your back business, but I'm gonna do it here live. You know what I'm saying? He was lucky to get you involved in his thing as well.
Yeah, thanks, Neville. Yeah, it was good. It was a great thing. And anyhow, my pride, and I would love to have the VI flag and a race. But you know, those are the tough decisions in life. Is it better to go there and fly the flag and get your butt kicked, or should you merge and keep trying the next time? So anyway, that's what I did.
So then you joined with the Switzerland team, and you won it. You finally won it when in 2003.
2007. No, so I finished with Dennis Conner, and then I joined Team Oracle, another American team.
Yeah.
With Larry Ellison, a big team.
Yeah, Larry Ellison. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great campaign. We finished second in the Challenger Series, and then I joined the Defenders, which was the Swiss team Alinghi, for the 2007 Cup, which was held in Spain. And with the team Alinghi, we won the Cup in 2007.
Congratulations. And then you defended the Cup. And then, so you've been home for the most part for the last, 20 years, just doing your thing?
Well, in the sport of sailing, there's many ways you can make a living, make it a career. The America's Cup is like joining NFL, but we call it professional sailing. So I'm a freelance professional, like a gun for hire. So when I finished the 07 Cup, I chose to come back home and just hang up my shingle as a professional sailor. And then you get hired by private teams in different leagues around the world. So I've spent the last.
I want to make sure I ask this question right. So so you're a sailor mercenary. That's what it is.
That's kind of a hard name, but they hire me to drive their boats. I'm a really good driver. I drive boats fast, and so
that's what I'm talking about.
They hire me to step in and drive their boats. And the cool thing about the sport of sailing, physically, the Olympics, you're peaking out in your 20s, late 20s. But the sport of sailing, the skill set I have, my experience is valuable. And in my position of driving, I mean, I stay fit and all, but I can compete up until my age now in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to keep in my career of sports
Nah,
sailing.
man, I appreciate that. Peter, I want to thank you very much for joining us on short notice. Congratulations on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands for representing us for the last 40 years. Continued success, man. Do it forever. Nice talking to you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Neville.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man,
it.
without a doubt. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when I head over to St. Thomas. Thank you very much, Peter Holmberg, Olympian, silver medalist from 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. Thank you very much to the firm of Burke, Joseph, and Smith. That's Jamal Burke, Cheryl Joseph, and Holly Smith, and Cassandra Dunn for hooking me up with that hour number one conversation. Be good, be safe. Talk to you tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.